Okay, Nan. So good morning to all. And the last class we have started the introduction to various market structures and pricing strategies. So as we all know that the pricing is very important because so whatever the product it should have the good demand in that market, means it should flourish in the market, means we should set good pricing for that product. So if the pricing of that product is good, then only it will flourish in the market. That is the very important factor which is affecting that increasing the demand of that particular product. So we have defined the what is meant by price. So it denotes the exchange value of unit of a good expressed in terms of money. That means we are purchasing or we are buying one commodity. So in that exchange of that commodity, we are giving some money. We are paying some money. So that is the exchange value of unit of a good. Next, in the last class, we have discussed some price concepts. So what are the basic definitions? Why the price of a well-defined product varies over the types of the buyers and place it is received, whether we are doing the purchase credit sale or whether we are doing the cash sale. So what is the time factor? What are the various factors are going to affect the price? Next, we have seen that price determinants. So how the demand and supply are going to affect the price of a product. So why they are important. So already we have discussed the loss of these demand and supplies. So what is meant by equilibrium price? So equilibrium price is nothing but, remember this definition, the price at which the demand and supply of a commodity is equal is known as equilibrium price. For that we have taken a demand schedule. We have given different prices for a commodity. So at the price at which, that means if you consider the price of that commodity, when you set the price of the commodity is 30, the demand for that commodity is 150 and the supply is also same. So that is the price is called, that price is called the equilibrium price. Suppose if you observe the another cases, when you set very low price, the demand is more but the supply is not there by the firm. So when you are not able to supply the goods, so if there is only demand, how can you get that returns? How will you get the profits? So you are not able to get the profits. So when the demand and supply are equal, then that price is called the equilibrium price. Then only that company or firm will gain the profits. So here, so in that whenever you are putting that price as the equilibrium price, so both the producer consumers are going to be satisfied because the consumers are satisfying that we are getting the good for reasonable price. They are satisfying in that manner. So with that price setting, producer also getting good profits because the demand for the products are more and they are able to supply the products with that meeting demand. So that's why the economics take all that price as a equilibrium price. So for that we have drawn a curve. So where that these two curves are intersecting a particular place, that place is called E. We are representing that as E. That E is nothing but that equilibrium price. In the last class we have seen. Next, I have started the discussion of market. So we have defined the market. A market is a place. It is not a geographical location. It is a place or area where the buyers and sellers are meeting for the exchange of the goods. So exchange of goods takes place at a particular area. That area is called the market. That is the narrow concept. So this can also be defined as that the demand made by a certain group of potential buyers for a good or service. So generally, according to our wants, for satisfying our wants, we are making demand for certain products. So the demand made by whom? By the potential buyers. So for what? For a good or service. That is also called a market. So we have defined that market in various aspects. Later we have seen the market structures. So what are the types of the market structures? So broadly we can classify them into perfect and imperfect competition only. We can classify that monopoly as also in imperfect competition, or we can set them, classify that monopoly as a separate classification. So based on a different economist, it may comes under the separate classification or it comes under the category of imperfect competition only. So in this market structure, we are discussing about that perfect competition. Why the classification is here? Based on the number of producers and buyers. So how many producers are doing that business, or how many uh, sellers are there? Based on that producers and competition among them, we have divided them into perfect competition and imperfect competition. Now we have started the discussion of imperfect competition. So what is that perfect competition? What are the characteristics we have seen? So remember all the characteristics of this perfect competition. A perfect competition market is nothing but where the competition among the sellers and buyers prevails in its most perfect form. That means in perfect competition market, there are more number of buyers and more number of sellers. They are selling the homogeneous product. So they have the freedom to entry and exit from that form. So all are having the good knowledge about the products which they are selling or which they are buying. So suppose these all type of these characteristics are satisfied, means the type of market competition is called the perfect competition. Here there are more number of buyers and sellers. Okay, a large number of buyers and sellers are there. So they are selling, all are selling the homogeneous product only. In the last class I have given the example. If you take the tomatoes, if you go for the vegetable market, so for selling the tomatoes, the different sellers are there. So whatever the tomatoes they are selling, all the tomatoes are same only, homogeneous product only. Potato, whatever it may be, vegetable you are taking. Or you can say that we are having a different street food. We are having the carts for street food. So if you go for a particular cart for buying any something, some food item, so whatever the cost of that food item, it is similar to that cart which is nearer to that cart. So all the street food item costs are similar only. They are selling the homogeneous product only. So we are eating such type of food also many number of times. So the whatever the products they are selling, they are homogeneous product only. So here if any person wants to start a cart for selling some food, so there are no restrictions from the government. Seriously, he can easily enter into that business and he can easily exit from that business. So there is a free entry and exit for the business. Freedom is there. So all the buyers and sellers they are having the perfect knowledge about the market for the commodity. So for which commodity they are selling, they are having the perfect knowledge, because as there are many number of buyers and sellers are there, so they are having the perfect knowledge. So here no single person or no single seller is going to decide that the price of that particular commodity, because as there are many number of buyers and sellers, all are going to affect that price of a commodity. No, a single person is not deciding the price. Next, so see here, no buyer has a preference to buy from a particular seller. Here we are not preferring to buy a commodity on that particular person only. So that is the indifference. So non-existence of transport cost. Already I have told you, in perfect competition, whatever the goods we are selling, all those goods are coming from that local places only. So there is no consideration of the transportation cost also, because this is the best example for agriculture products. So agriculture products, vegetables, fruits, whatever the fruits they are selling from the nearby places, coming from the nearby places. So these are we can avoid the transport cost. So perfect mobility factors are for the production. So these are all the various characters which we have discussed in the previous class. Okay. See here. I want to tell the difference between sometimes they call it as a pure competition and perfect competition. So when it is called the pure competition and when it is called the perfect competition, I want to tell a small difference between the pure competition and the perfect competition. So I'm going to the previous slides. Observe. Totally we have discussed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 characteristics for the perfect competition. See here, if it is a pure competition, means the term perfect competition is used in wider senses. So if it should be a perfect competition, it should satisfy all the characteristics which we have previously specified. Suppose if it is a pure competition, means it has only limited assumptions. So whenever you want to say particular market competition is pure or perfect, suppose if you want to say it as a pure competition, means it should satisfy limited assumptions which we have previously discussed. So previously we have discussed the 7 assumptions or 7 characteristics. In that 7 characteristics, it should be a pure competition. Means what are the characteristics it should be satisfied? So when the assumptions like that, in pure competitions also, what they should have a large number of buyers and sellers. So the pure competition also contains large number of buyers and sellers. And it is also going to sell homogeneous products. The second characteristics. And the third characteristic is free entry and exit. If these 3 characteristics are satisfied, then there exists a pure competition among the market uh, competitors. So we can say whether a competition is a pure competition or perfect competition. So if it is a pure competition means it need not to satisfy all the characteristics which we have specified previously. If it satisfies only 3 characteristics, what are those 3 characteristics? One is a large number of buyers and sellers, homogeneous products, and free entry and exit. If the 3 characteristics are satisfied means we can say that is a pure competition. So when the competition becomes perfect, the competition becomes perfect only all the assumptions are satisfied. So whatever the previous assumptions or characteristics we have specified, if all the assumptions are satisfied, we can completely say it as a perfect competition. Otherwise we will call it as a pure competition. Okay, generally pure competition has been seen in us. Again, the pure competition is also seen in agriculture products. So what are those examples of agriculture products? Such as corn, wheat, soya bean. For such type of products, we can say that that it competition as a pure competition. So we will see that what is that perfect competition. So these are the examples of perfect competition. As I have told, street food items, the market is like that for perfect competition. So agricultural markets are free softwares which are available on the roads by using some carts like that. Street food vendors, all these things comes under for the examples of the perfect competitions. Whatever the street food available for us on the roads, because they are setting the similar prices for selling that particular commodity. On the street food, we are having some idli, dosa, bhaji like that. So all the cost of that dosa, idli, and whatever that item, they are setting the similar prices for that particular product. See, on the streets, we are having some mobile covers or whatever the some items we are going to find. So the cost of the items are also similar. So street food vendors and free software and agriculture markets. So these are all the examples of the perfect competition. Next, see here. So it should be a perfect competition means what are the total characteristics it should satisfy. Already I have explained. So I'm telling it in a some diagrammatical represent for your easy understanding and representation. So you can give a glance on it. Glance on this perfect competition. What is this? It must have a large buyers and sellers. It must have homogeneous product. We are having free entry and exit. That means any person can enter into that market and any person can leave the market. Next, perfect knowledge of prices and technology. So because as there are many number of buyers and sellers, all the persons have some knowledge, good knowledge about the prices and technology. So whenever we are using perfect competition means all the goods are available from that local market only, means nearby local places, means there are no transportation costs. So no artificial restrictions. There are no restrictions from the government, not any specifically or any other things. So that's why there is a free entry and exit. So this is the perfect competition. So in a diagrammatical point of view also you can represent for getting the good marks, or you can write all the side headings and you can explain that. So that's about that perfect competition and the pure competition. Next, we are moving to that another topic, that is equilibrium of a firm and industry under perfect competition. So whenever that we are discussing about that market structure, in market structure basically we are having 2 types of competitions. One is perfect competition and the another one is the imperfect competition. So whenever it is a perfect competition, how a firm or industry they can attain a equilibrium. So what are the conditions? So what is meant by equilibrium? So equilibrium is a position where the firm has no incentive either to expand or contrast its output. So every firm is producing some outputs. Some outputs means they are generating some supply. So for performing that sale of that goods. So here it is a position where the firm has no incentive. Either they from that position they are not able to expand it, or they are not able to decrease it. That means it is a position they are getting the good profits. Certain position is called the equilibrium position. That means the firm will be at a certain position. That position is called the equilibrium position. At that position the company is earning good profits. If you move beyond that, either they come in losses, or they will fall in another bad situations. So that position is the good position. That equilibrium position is a firm position where the firm has no incentives either to expand or contrast its output. So the firm is said to be in equilibrium when it's earn maximum profit. That is the only thing I have told you now. So it is a position where the firm or industry is going to earn maximum profit. Beyond this, if you go either right or left, that means we are going into the losses. So that is not the thing every firm wants to get. Every firm wants to get a maximum profits. So for that, for explaining this thing, we required here two terminology. The two terminology are very, very important. In the last class itself, Naidu sir told you marginal cost and marginal revenue. So in your second unit, you have covered what is that marginal cost, fixed cost, variable cost, average cost, like that various cost you have discussed in the second unit. So here we require the definition of that marginal cost and that marginal revenue. So every company needs to attain that equilibrium position. For attaining that equilibrium position, we require the two things, that is MC and MR. MC is the marginal cost and the second one is the MR. So the marginal cost should be equal to that marginal revenue. What is that equilibrium position? For attaining that equilibrium position, what should be equal? Your marginal cost must be equal to that marginal revenue. So what is that marginal cost? I will explain by an example. Suppose if a company is there, that company wants to expand its production. So it wants to produce more number of goods. So for increasing its production, it wants to incur some cost for establishing a new unit. So whatever the additional cost, it has been incurred by a firm for producing the additional unit of output. That means for producing more number of goods, it has to establish a new unit. Whatever the cost it has been spent on that new unit, that additional cost incurred by the firm for the additional unit of output. Why they are incurring, spending that additional unit? For increasing the production of their goods. By that additional unit only, they can increase their production. That's why they are spending some money. They are incurring some money for producing the additional unit of output. That cost is called marginal cost. I am telling here, it is an additional cost incurred by a firm for producing an additional unit of output. So the firm is incurring or spending some cost. Why they are spending some cost? For increasing the additional unit of the output. So that cost is called marginal cost. Okay. So what is this marginal revenue? It is the additional revenue accrued to a firm when it sells the one additional unit of output. Previously, for increasing our production, we are doing some expenditure for making one unit of that firm, for the extension of one unit. So whatever the output we are getting from that unit, we are selling that output and we are getting some profits. That means whatever the revenue accrued means accumulated to a firm when it sells one additional unit of the output. So from that additional unit, it has been increased is the sales. It has sell some products, extra products. So from that extra products, it is going to generate some revenue. What is that accumulated revenue? So it is the additional revenue accumulated to a firm when it sells one additional unit of output. That is called marginal cost and marginal revenue. Hope you understood these things. This is the cost the company is doing the expenditure for increasing its output. So by using this, it is increasing its output. By selling those products, it is getting some profit. That revenue is called accumulated revenue, is called that marginal revenue. So for getting the equilibrium of a firm, what are the two variables should be equal? The marginal cost should be equal to that marginal revenue. So it is the only at the point where that marginal cost is equal to the marginal revenue means then the firm attains what position? Equilibrium position. Okay. And always what he is saying, When you draw a graph by using these factors, that marginal cost curve must cut that marginal revenue from the below. See, you are drawing that graph by using that marginal cost and marginal revenue. So generally that marginal cost curve should be a U-shaped curve. That U-shaped curve must cut that marginal revenue curve from the below. That is the thing he is telling. Now, the continued topic here. Here we are explaining this by using the graph. So on this graph, what we are explaining? See here, on the x-axis, what we have taken, the quantity demanded or output. So on the x-axis, we are taking the output. On the y-axis, we are taking the cost of revenue. So we have drawn the curves. Here, MR means marginal revenue, AR means average revenue, and DD is equal to demand curve. So for attaining this equilibrium positions, all these values must be equal. So whatever may be the marginal revenue, average revenue, and demand curve, all these are in the single line. That is the PL line. All these are at equal values. So here you are seeing two curves here. One is the marginal curve. That is the MC curve. This is the marginal curve. This is the MC curve. This is the U-shaped curve cutting the MR curve. So this line PL is the MR curve. So this MC is cutting this MR curve from the below of this one. At the beginning, it is cutting at a position called R. So the MC curve is cutting that PL line at a position R. So at point R, the marginal cost becomes equal to that marginal revenue. That means whenever it is cutting means that marginal cost is equal to that marginal revenue. But again, the curve is not stopping in that way. It is coming down, and again it is reaching to a position to that up. Again it is reaching the position, and again it is cutting at a position called T. So this is the maximum quantity we required. So what is that quantity we required here? It is the total quantity called OM. Okay, na? So this is not, at the beginning it is cutting the curve. We are not saying this is not that equilibrium position, because as the curve is moving downward, again it is cutting that MR curve at a position called T. So then it is reaching the final position. Then it is reaching the equilibrium position. At this position, what is the output? The output is OM. That means whenever the firm is going to increase its output up to OM level, then only it is attaining that equilibrium position. At the beginning, what is that output? The output is ON only. So with that ON output level, it is not reaching the equilibrium position. So when you are increasing your production, that means we are incurring some marginal cost. So that means we are incurring on that additional unit. So we are increasing our output. So whenever the output is increased to OM, it is attaining that equilibrium position. So the downward sloping marginal cost curve indicates that a firm can reduce its cost of production by increasing the output. See here, suppose the company is doing the production of 500 items per month. So whenever it is producing 500 items per month means the cost of each item will be so and so. The cost of each item will be 50 rupees. See, you know already what is meant by average cost. Average cost is nothing but total cost divided by quantity. So for producing the goods, whatever the total cost you have you have done, TC, total cost divided by quantity, how much quantity you have produced. Suppose whenever you are going to increase your production only, we can reduce the average cost of each item. Then only it will be possible. So when this will be possible, what he is saying, the downward sloping marginal cost indicates that the firm can reduce its cost of its production. We can reduce our cost of production by increasing the output. Output ni increase cheskunte gaani mana cost of production decrease avvadu antunnaru konni cases lo. So less number of items ni produce chesinappudu production cost anedi ekku avutundi. So average cost per item is going to be increased. So whenever we can decrease that average cost, whenever you are going to increase your production, so when you are going to take that marginal cost, whenever you are going for marginal cost, so as the firm expands its output, it will reach the equilibrium at the point T. So that is the thing I have told you. It is cutting at 2 points, that is R and T. At the beginning, the supply is only, the production is only ON. So with that, it is not getting that equilibrium position. Whenever that output is increased from ON to OM, then only it is reaching this equilibrium position. So that is the thing I am going to explain from this graph. So here, for attaining that equilibrium position, we should require that the marginal cost must be equal to that marginal revenue. So what is that marginal cost and what is that marginal revenue? I have explained. And I have told you what is meant by average cost. So you can explain that graph by considering the graph like that. Now I'm going to explain pricing under perfect competition. So how that equilibrium position can be attained in perfect competition, we have seen. So how that pricing also will be done in perfect competition, we have to learn this. The questions will be asked in this. So explain that pricing concepts in perfect competition. You'll get a question like that. So here, what we have told that in a perfect competition, there are more number of buyers and sellers are there. No single person, no single buyer or seller is powerful enough to influence the price, because all the buyers and sellers have the good knowledge about that commodities or technology which they are using for that commodities. All are well known about that. So that's why no single buyer or seller is powerful enough to influence the price. That is the thing you have to remember. So that's why Marshall has given his concept. So Marshall, what that Marshall has explained, Marshall has explained that he gives a great importance to the time element for the determination of the price. So in a perfect competition, when you want to decide that the price under perfect competition, what is the factor we have to consider here? The important factor we need to consider is the time element. So under this concept, you have to remember the certain terminology. So that's why I'm writing that words in red color. Here, no single buyer or seller is powerful enough to influence the price. They have no right or they are not able to influence the price. That's why Marshall has explained that he has given more importance to that time element for the determination of the price. So how can we consider that time element? So the time element is divided into number of periods based on that supply. How the time is divided? The time periods are divided based on the supply. See here, suppose I want to get 1,000 apples now itself. Can I get the 1,000 apples when I order the things at a time? Is it possible? No. Certain type of goods we can't get them instantly, because we don't know whether the supply of the 1,000 apples are not ready in the market or not. Suppose if I want to order 1,000 uniform for CR Reddy engineering students, can I get that 1,000 uniforms now itself? So and the morning I have told, in the evening can I get that the things? No. So there are some measurements we have to take. So some considerations we have to take. We have to take some whatever the raw materials or sources required for that getting that total 1,000 uniforms. So here the time periods are divided based on that what supply, and ignore the forces of demand. What we have ignored in this case, the forces of demand. What we have considered here, this on the basis of supply. So on the basis of the supply, the time periods are divided into totally 4 categories. What are those 4 categories? Very short period. First one is very short period and second one is the short period. So very short period is also known as the market period. Understand this. So then remember the names. Very short period is known as the market period, and the price under this category is also called the market price. Second category is the short period, and third category is the long period, and fourth category is also called as very long period or secular period. Two names for this: very long period or the secular period. Now we are going to discuss about each and every period. Okay. So what is the Marshall has explained? Marshall has explained that he has taken the time element as the important factor for determining the price. So we are considering the time element for determining the base. On the basis of which factor we are considering? On the basis of the supply. On the basis of the supply, we are determining the prices. We are not taking the demand into much consideration. We are ignoring the demand, forces of demand. So now we are moving to discuss the very short period. So what is this very short period? As the name itself, it is saying we are having less period, very short. So it may be a single day, or it may be 2 to 3 days, or 3 to 4 days. That the period is called very short period. That means whatever the commodities we are going to supply, the commodities should able to supply within this single day, or within 3 to 4 days. Within this a short period, we are able to supply the commodities. So that is the very short period. See here, it is a period in which the supply is more or less fixed, because the time available to the firm adjust the supply of the commodity to its changed demand is extremely short. Because I'm having a demand that I want to get 10,000 apples in 2 to 3 days. Is it possible? Can I get the 10,000 apples in just 1 or 2 days? 1 or 2 days, can I get the 10,000 apples or 1 lakh apples? Because getting those apples, if at all the crop is ready there, I have to get them by using some transportation. Or if at all they are not ready, I have to crop the things, whatever the necessary things required for getting the apples. I have to do those things. It is very long period to get that crop. So here, whatever the demand is there, now I require the demand of some 10,000 uniforms in 2 to 3 days. The demand is more. Can I meet that demand by supplying the commodities which are required for that to meet that demand? Is it that period available is the period available is cope up with that demand? No, it is not possible. That is the thing he is telling. So it is the period in which the supply is more or less fixed. We are not able to increase the supply within the short period. My requirement is 10,000 uniforms in 2 to 3 days. I am not able to cope up with that demand. I am not able to supply that uniforms in 2 to 3 days. It is not possible for me. Within 2 days, within that short period, I am not able to increase the supply. Either I cannot decrease the supply. That is the thing, because the time available to the firm is very less, because as it is 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, that is the very short period to adjust the supply of the commodity to its changed demand. It is extremely short. So the price determined in this period is called that market price. So whatever the price we have determined in this period is called that market price. That is about that very short period. Because in that very short period, the demand may be more, but we cannot change the supply of that goods, because it is not possible to change the supply, because the time period is very less. Next, short period. When compared with the very short period is means 2 to 3 weeks or 3 to 4 weeks. Okay, that is the short period time. So if I am having the short period time, the time available to the firms is adjustable to adjust the supply of that commodity to its change demand. So here in the market, the demand is going to be changed. The demand is increased because we are having that short period time. Short period means we are having 3 to 4 weeks time or 2 to 3 weeks time. Within these 3 weeks, I am able to adjust my supply of that commodity to its changed demand. Suppose with that changed demand, I have to increase my supply, means I can adjust within these 3 to 4 weeks. Suppose the demand has been reduced, I can hold that or hold the stock. I can reduce the supply of that goods because that demand is very less. So I can do that such type of adjustments with this short period. Okay, because it is greater than in the market period, because in the very short period, what is that period is called market period, and what is the price in that market period is called market price. So when combined with that market period, the time available in this short period is more. So what is the thing we have to do in this period? What is the change we are doing in this? In this period, we are altering the variable factors like raw materials, labor. Suppose I want to supply 10,000 uniforms. It is not possible in 1 or 2 days, but it is possible in 3 to 4 weeks by increasing the raw materials and by increasing that labor which they are able to stitch that uniform. So within 3 to 4 weeks, I can do that work. So that is the thing. So what are the factors we are going to change in this short period? In this short period, we are altering the variable factors. Which variable factors you are altering? Some raw materials which are required for that, and whatever the labor which it requires. So by altering these, by increasing or by producing this, we can adjust the supply of that commodity to its changed demand. Hope you understand this. So during this period, new firms cannot enter into this industry. See here, the short period time is 2 to 3 weeks or 3 to 4 weeks. Within this 3 to 4 weeks, we cannot establish a new firm, or we cannot establish a new unit of that my company. So, but we can change the variable factors like raw materials and labor. By increasing them, I can increase the supply of the goods. And hope understand this. Next, I'm going to explain the third category called long period. The third category is long period. So the third category is long period. So in this long period, so when compared with the short period, long period means it may be a 1 year or 2 years time. So it enters into the years time. So we are having sufficient long time is available to the firms to adjust the supply of the commodity. As the time period is long, we are having 1 to 2 years or 2 to 3 years time. So as the time period is long, we are able to adjust the supply of the commodity. So we are having some particular commodities demand is more. We are able to adjust that supply of the commodity fully to the changed demand. So whatever maybe the demand is going to be increased or changing. So with that increased demand, we are able to adjust the supply of the commodity. So in this long period, whatever the changes we have to do to adjust the supply of the commodity to its changed demand. So you have to remember the things here. In the previous case, we have changed that variable factors like raw materials and labor only. But along with that variable factors of production, we need to change the fixed factors of production also. Fixed factors and means what are the fixed factors? We can say that fixed cost, variable cost and fixed cost we have seen in the last class. So fixed cost is nothing but we can establish a new unit, new firm, or you can purchase a new machinery, costly machinery, and you can establish that new machinery and you will start that production. That means we can take any another new buildings for your purpose. So fixed factors are nothing but so which are required for your production. So you can get the new tools or new machinery, you can get them so within this 1 year, and you can establish one new building, whatever it may be. So these things we can also be changed along with that variable factors. Then we can change the supply of the commodity to the fully changed demand. So now the price demanded in this period is known as long run normal price. This is the term you have to remember here. So whatever the price changes in this long period, the type of price in this period is known as long run normal price. So whatever the price we are determining in this period is called that long run normal price. Remember this one. Next one is that very long period or secular period. Last category, very long period or sorry, secular period. Very long period means it may take decades. Decades means 10 years, 10 to 15 years, 10 to 20 years, decades of time it will take. Long periods means it take 2 to 3 years like that. Secular period means minimum decade. Minimum decade means 10 years. About 10 years it will take. That is the very long time available to adjust the supply to fully change the demand. Because as the time is very long, as it is more than 10 years, we can change the or we can adjust the supply to the changed demand. But because as the time period is very long, we can't expect the demand is like that only. Because the time period is very long, can I say that after 10 years also we will use such type of X and X mobiles only? There may be another company which will come into the existence. So after 10 years also we will use the Geo network only? No, definitely some another person will come into that picture, and he may give good offers, or we will attract to that person by seeing these offers or whatever the things. So we can't expect the same demand for that Geo network after 10 years also. So that is the thing we can understand. So here This is the very long period consisting of number of decades. Here number of decades. So as the period is very long, it is difficult to lay down principles of determining the price, because we can't expect after 10 years also the demand is in that way only. We cannot correctly say that. We cannot predict that correctly in a correct manner. So we are not able to determining the price values based on that demand, because we are not able to decide the demand. So what we have discussed, pricing under perfect competition. Here, the pricing under perfect competition will be based on the given which for which variable, time variable. The time element we are taking into consideration. So when you are taking that time element into consideration, we are dividing that time element into number of factors. So based on which we are dividing that time element, basis of the supply. On the basis of supply, we are dividing that time period into number of periods. What are those number of periods? Very short period, long period, and very long period. Hope you have understood all these things. Now I am moving to that another thing. Price determination in the market period. What is that market period? Hope you remember that one. Already I have told you the market period is nothing but very short period. So what is the price determination in that market period? Now we are going to discuss this thing. Okay. So whatever the price determined in the very short period is known as that market price. Already I have underlined those words in with another color for your remembrance and for our explanation easy purpose. So the price determined in the very short period price is called that market price. So how can we get this market price? How can we determine this market price? This market price is determined by the equilibrium between the demand and supply. So we can determine that market price based on that demand and supply. So based on that demand and supply, how can we determine? There should be a equilibrium between the demand and supply. Already we have seen that equilibrium between demand and supply. Equilibrium price we have seen at 30 rupees, that demand and supply are equal. At that price, that the price is called equilibrium price. So this market price is determined by the equilibrium between the demand and supply in the market. Okay. So here, what are the other things we require here? The nature of the commodity determines the nature of the supply curve in the market period. See, whatever the commodity we are taking, that nature of the commodity is going to determine that nature of the supply curve in the market period. So under this period, the goods are classified into two types. So here we are discussing about that equilibrium price. For equilibrium price, what should be equal? Demand and supply should be equal. It should be decided by what? The nature of the commodity. We are having different types of commodities. So based on that commodity, equilibrium will be existing. So what are these commodities are divided into here two types: perishable goods and non-perishable goods. Already I have explained in the first unit the perishable goods. If you are following the classes regularly, you can get the understanding what is meant by perishable goods. So perishable goods are nothing but in the very short period the supply of perishable goods. So the goods we can preserve them in a refrigerator or we can store them. So we cannot able to store them more than some days. So if you are not able to store that milk in that fridge, we are not able to store the milk after than 1 year, not more than one day. Okay, not more than one day we are not able to store that milk. So vegetables also we are able to store them without refrigerator also we can store them nearly 3 to 4 days only, they will be fresh. So other than that they are going to be spoiled. So those goods which are spoiling in a very short period, such type of goods are called perishable goods. So the supply of perishable goods like fish, milk, vegetables cannot be increased. That means if you take certain commodities like fish, milk, vegetables, we cannot increase the supply in 3 to 4 days. Very short period means already I have told you it is a single day time or 3 to 4 days. I cannot increase the production of tomatoes or vegetable brinjal within 3 to 4 days. I cannot grow the crop in 3 to 4 days. It is not possible. So I cannot increase the milk production within the 3 to 4 days. So it cannot be increased or it cannot be decreased also. That is the case of perishable goods. See here, I will explain this by using this graph. So as the result, the supply curve under the very short will be. So here in the graph, we are showing the supply curve. Here SS is the supply curve. What is this? SS is the supply curve. This supply is curve is parallel to your y-axis. That means it is vertical to the x-axis and parallel to your y-axis. See here, supply is perfectly inelastic because it is vertical means it is not changing. It is not affected by the demand. It is constant. You know what is meant by elastic and inelastic. Already I have told you that what is meant by elastic and inelastic. So whenever the price changes, the goods purchasing is going to be changed means it is called elastic commodity. So whenever the price changes, it is not changing means it is called inelastic. So here it is vertically straight line means it is we can say that it is inelastic. The price determination of perishable goods in very short period is we can explain by using this graph. See here. Here we are saying DD is the demand curve. Okay. At the beginning, the demand is represented by DD demand curve. Okay. Whenever the demand is increased, it is represented by D1 demand curve. Here we have taken three lines in a cross wave. These are the demand curve. They are falling from left to right. You already we have discussed in the previous sessions why the demand curve is like this. It is falling from left to right. So at the beginning, the demand is DD. Whenever the price increases, the demand is D1. Whenever the price decreases, the demand is D2. So based on the prices, the demand is going to be changed. So in the graph, we are having that SS is the supply curve, DD is the demand curve, D1 is the demand curve, and D2 is the demand curve. Now we will see here. Okay. See here, MS is the supply. Okay, MS is the supply. Where it intersects the demand curve, see here. The demand curve at the beginning, the demand is DD. It intersects that supply curve at the point called E. So what is the price? OP. What is the price at this location? OP. So what is the quantity exchanged? OM. That means whenever the price is OP, the quantity we required or the quantity we are going to supply is OM only. Whenever it cuts the demand curve is cutting that supply curve, it is called E. The price level is OP and the quantity we are demanding is OM. Now, whatever the changes we are seeing here, D1 is the new demand curve, it cuts at E1. So here D1 is the another demand curve. It is cutting the supply curve at E1. So what is the price level? OP1. That means they have increased the price. Okay. So by increase, because the demand is going to be changed, they are increasing the price. Why they have increased the price? Because the supply is the same only. You have to observe the thing. Whatever may be the demand, the supply is the same. So they are increasing the price level from OP to OP1. So that is the new demand. Now, whenever the demand increases, the price is also going to be increased. That is the thing I have told you. D2 is the another demand curve. Here see this. This is the another demand curve. So where it intersects at this position. This position is called E2. So when you get into that y-axis, what is the price level? The price level is OP2. At this price level also, what is the quantity we are supplying? The quantity we are supplying is same. So when the demand increases, price increases, but not the supply. The supply is not going to be affected. So D2 is the another demand curve. It intersects at E2. The price level is going to be decreased. So here what we are going to say here, whatever may be the demand of that perishable goods, that means suppose the milk demand is more in 2 to 3 days, or the demand for that particular vegetables are more, whatever may be the demand. So based on the demand, we cannot adjust that supply of that goods. The supply is the same. So if the demand is more means if that seller is going to increase his profits means he is going to increase the price level of that particular product. So but he is not going to change its supply. That is the thing I want to convey from this graph. So here in the case of the perishable goods, we are not able to change the supply of the goods. But if the demand for that perishable goods is more means I can increase the price because I want to get that profit. So I can change the price also based on the conditions. That is the thing and that is the about regarding perishable goods.